Hi, Simon.
Hey, Lisa.
So for today's topic, it's almost not a revision, adjunct to other topics we've had about email. But today we're
hmm
going to talk about specifically newsletters and kind of reimagining the newsletter for kind of today's audience, which has shifted a bit.
Yeah. Um, as we were planning this, it got me thinking about a newsletter that I get weekly from an organization. And it just frustrates the heck out of me because it has, upcoming events and news you need to know kind of thing. And then you open the email and it's a video. Like there's no text to read. You have to be in a place where you can listen. So either have headphones on or
Hmm.
be able to have the volume up kind of thing. And it's usually like a 3-minute video kind of thing with a bunch of updates. um, I I keep saying, well, why can't you just put the transcript in the body of the email too, so that I can have both,
Or
right?
something, or at least have a, like, maybe here are the highlights, some bullet points or something on what it is that they want to tell you, and then clicking over to learn more when you're ready.
Yeah, and
It's
like if
weird to put
there's
that right in there.
if there's a big event, they'll have a little ad banner below the video that, but
Sure.
it's like I think one of the things that we've talked about email seems like at some point it might have been dying off and being replaced by like social and things like that, but having an email you can go back to if you save emails. I don't know if
Hmm.
I'm a pack rat. um
Digital pack rat.
and yeah, I'm a digital pack rat, and you can go back and you're like, what time was that, or what date was that, or
Hmm.
there's usually that information is actually really valuable because it's sort of somebody has shared it with you and it's locked in your inbox. They're not
Yeah,
they're not able to
exactly.
change it.
Exactly. Now, I will say, though, that while email has always been very popular, it doesn't seem like it because not a lot of change has happened. Not a lot of
hmm
like technical innovation for a while now. I feel like nothing really huge, but I think the content side of thing has shifted because we have gotten so used to instant gratification, quick little bites of things, um, that everything is like vying for our attention. So we have to grab people's attention with a subject
mm,
line. We have to grab their attention with the content that we have has
right.
to be scannable. Like there's things that I think that the content has evolved to cater to different audience, younger audiences, even. You know,
Yeah,
anything you want to
I'm
add?
well, I think it's content. I think also, like you said, we are competing with more different marketing sort of
Channels.
activities and things
Yeah.
like that. And you were saying there's not really been a technological set of innovations, anything that's really like crazy. But I
Yeah.
think I think where we're going to see changes. One, I feel like the expertise that actual email marketers have when they think about setting up their email and their
Hmm.
process for it and the kinds of content they're going to create and how much they're going to slice and dice it, that is going to change. Like the marketers going to become more sophisticated. And I think there's probably some stuff, and we'll talk about it, that's simple to start with, if you will, without getting
Hmm.
too complicated. It'll be interesting too to see how AI plays into email, if you will.
There's a few things that AI does, just as a sidebar, is certainly content creation. We've talked about that in the past. And I think that's where everyone who's dipped their toe in ChatGPT or Perplexity, Claude, whatever, Gemini, that's probably the first use case. They're like, help me write whatever. And
Right.
so creating email content is something that it can very easily do. Creating subject lines is something it can easily do.
hmm
And then some of the email platforms might even go so far as like, oh, these are the people in your audience that are likely to buy again. Do you want us to
Right.
create a list of those people? So like that's kind of been happening and evolving over time. It's just like
I think there's also a
it's
change in consumption.
refinement.
I know I can use
Yeah,
AI to summarize emails or
that
summarize a
too.
chain of email,
Yep.
like a thread. So
Yep.
those are going to be changes in how we consume it and how we read it and things like that. So,
Yep. I
um,
will say, wait, I want to say something else. Still,
no
it's another sidebar
sidebar
still.
marketing.
Sidebar, and then I forgot. So I'll come back to it later. It's okay.
All right.
What were you going to say?
Well, I was just going to say, I think maybe we should touch on where we think, sort of historic email marketing has like fallen short, like where people get into trouble,
Yes. And I
especially if they're
remember
sort of
what I was
new
going
to
to
new to
say.
email. Okay, say
Yeah.
what you were going to say.
So, and it is related to kind of where things fall short. So there are, one of the things where you have to kind of weigh is how often you are messaging people.
Right.
And sometimes you do it too much and people say, no, thank you. And then they unsubscribe from your email marketing list and or even cite you as spam. So you don't want that. And with AI, you certainly can improve your velocity, if you will, your
Hmm.
throughput. You can create a lot more content with AI. So just be careful about that. But you can use it to test things. So maybe you're doing two variations on something, but it's still technically one email. So keep that
Right.
in mind. Now, where does traditional email marketing fall short? I think that we have an expectation to be much more like targeted or personalized. So if I get an email that is not kind of right for me, I get angry. So, or if it's the worst one is like I bought something and then I'm getting promoted, like, oh,
Oh,
buy this thing. And it's like, I already did, like,
yeah.
know me, it's that is irritating. So I think that it can fall short. Or maybe if the timing is wrong and you've got some sort of a campaign where you sell products online, somebody adds it to their cart, they don't end up buying it, they get an email that says, which is a great thing to do, like, oh, you left something in your cart, because sometimes people forget. Well,
Hmm.
maybe I already bought it, maybe the timing was wrong, and then they got an email anyway. And so that's kind of a misstep there.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts about like where things could be better?
Well, yeah, no, I think you touched on it. The fact that a lot of times people just send the same email to everybody without thinking about who they're targeting or who they're sending to. And I think also we talked about structure of the email. Like you got to make sure it works for mobile, desktop, with
Mm-hmm.
sound, without sound, right? You want to have that combination of things. So,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's the whole frequency. And I know we're talking about newsletters, which typically aren't like everyday
No, it's
occurrence.
like a
That's
once a month thing. Is
or
usually, I
even
think,
once
or
every.
every
It
week or two
depends.
weeks.
Yeah, if you have
True.
an active program of some sort where every weekend, let's say you have events at
Yeah, so it might make
your
sense.
business, then you probably want to send a weekly email so that people know.
And
um
you might have multiple. Now that I think about it, I have an example. New York Times has like a billion newsletters that you can subscribe to. And so this is the cooking newsletter that comes out once a
hmm,
week. This is the athletic newsletter that comes out every week. There's one that comes out daily if you want just the headlines. Like they have its different frequency, but you are aware of what you're signing up for if you sign up for these things.
sure,
And if you decide not to get the cooking one anymore, that's okay. They have this kind of permissions mechanism that you'll unsubscribe to just that,
right,
and then you can still get the other one. So
yeah,
that's if you do have something where you've got a lot of different things, you can have
a
people
preference
subscribing to
center.
certain things.
Yeah,
Exactly. It's kind of complicated, but I feel like those are really good to have because then
yeah,
they're not subscribing to everything.
sure,
Unsubscribing. Um, now we're talking about newsletters specifically. So newsletters tend to have the objective of more of engagement, for like you're trying to keep your customers warm, if you
right,
will.
right,
So, if they don't buy something all the time, but you want to keep them involved, keep them engaged. That's usually what the primary thing is, but it doesn't mean that you can't upsell something, cross sell something, subtly in there. I mean, what are your take on like a rule of thumb, even with,
I mean, to me, a newsletter, you need to think of it differently than just a promotion or sales sort of.
totally,
It needs,
totally.
to your point, like it's not just engagement, it's education. I feel like when you're
Yes.
sending a newsletter, it's an opportunity for you to connect with someone over a topic that you're informing them about, right? So
Yeah.
you're teaching them, maybe it's changes, like a lot of in California, a lot of laws changed on July 1st, right? So if you were in a business, maybe financial company, you're a financial advisor or something like that, or maybe you're an insurance company and you want to let people know that certain laws changed about
Yep.
driving or about
Yep.
investments or taxable things, all of those things. You're, in a sense, I think of a newsletter as you're doing a service for your
Yeah.
audience, right?
Yep.
But I think you're also
You were making me think of something. So when you
okay.
talked about a fight, like let's say your attorney wants to let you know, oh, there are these things that are coming up, and or your estate planner or something like that. One thing I was just thinking about, it's like, yeah, why don't we see more of that? And it's almost like newsletters are meant to be an extension of yourself. So
Hmm,
let's say I am a financial advisor. I have my clients, rather than me individually telling them, hey, Simon, you might want to be aware that this is coming up. And that is this personal relationship that you have with that service provider.
right.
But this allows it to be scalable to all your clients, but it doesn't mean that it's not personal. Like you can still make it you have a connection with the people. Would you
Well,
say?
I think so. I don't know. I'm trying to follow just a little bit. Like I think you might have different pieces of your business. Let's use an estate attorney as an example. You're going to have clients who maybe on the prospecting side that you're trying to get to set up a
That's true.
trust, or maybe they have a will, or
Yeah, good point.
you have a group of people that are in process, right? That they already have a trust and a will set up, but these laws changed how you incorporate property, for example, real property
Hmm.
or things like that. So yeah, you want to think about personalization definitely more than just changing the name on the email, right?
Yeah.
It's got to be a content change. I was thinking where you were going a little bit too is that newsletters are tough because I think for businesses, because it is more of an education creative and, like you said, an extension of yourself. And a lot of times you're just treading water to have enough business. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I
Right.
think people need to look at the fact that newsletters get shared,
Yep.
they get saved, right? And you can still incorporate a notion of promotion, like financial advisor sends you an update, tells you about changes in the market, whatever, and at the end they say, and if you have friends who need a financial advisor,
Yeah.
share the
Tell
name
them
and get
about
a
me.
free dinner or a bottle of wine,
Or
whatever.
not even that. Like,
Yeah,
just like if you like what I do. Yeah, for sure.
tell your friends, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
and I think you again, think about, one, that content thing is really critical about being valuable. So
Yeah, or again, people aren't going to read it. They're not going to open it. They're not going to subscribe. As an aside, I will say you don't have to put all the words in your email. I would
true.
say if you've got a lot of things to talk about, I would do little snippets and then drive people to your website. Maybe you create a blog that's easy because blogs are, you know, pretty easy to like put a new post in there.
Yeah, you could
I would kind
do,
of
I
recommend
mean,
that.
again, thinking about an individual that's running a little business. I mean, worst case, you
A
create a
little
blog,
business.
a little business. It probably
Yeah, I
generates
don't
more money than I
know.
make in a year. But you don't have to overthink it. You could have a blog post. Tell me what you think of this. That's really just an expansion of your email. So to your point,
Exactly.
you
Exactly.
highlight a couple things. You can't just
Yep.
do titles. You need to put like 2 or 3 sentences.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a little bit of a blurb,
Yep.
and then a click, and it could go. You could have one blog article for that email newsletter,
You
and jump
can,
them
but
down.
I would
No.
rather do individual things. And I think it's because the topics tend to be a little bit different. And I also think it could potentially help with SEO. I mean, I don't know, SEO
Mm,
is changing nowadays, but I think if it's more focused, each article, unless
excuse me.
it's somehow they're all related to each other,
Hmm.
I would have them be distinct articles, with each of them have a purpose. Now, I want to throw something else out there, which is something that I think you proposed a long time ago, which was oftentimes in a newsletter, you can play around with subject lines where you highlight what specifically you're talking about in the email.
Hmm.
But if you highlight something in that subject line, don't put it first, because then people will stop right there. If you put it lower, it's almost like they have to scan to see these other things first before you get to the thing that you highlighted. You said that.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
like
great.
10
That's
years ago.
brilliant.
You're brilliant. It's a
Actually,
good idea. Maybe you made an observation and kind of wondered, oh, should we do something similar for a website or
you know
something?
what I
But
think that came from is, and this is a sidebar, is
third one,
there are people who read and there are people who scan.
absolutely.
So
I'm a scanner.
a lot more people, I think, these days tend to scan to look
Yep.
for. So you're right. If you put that item a couple clicks down,
Yeah.
don't completely bury it,
Don't
but
bury
if
it.
it's
Yeah,
bold
exactly.
and
And
it
don't make it
catches their eye,
last.
but
Yeah.
they see that there's other content, I mean, it can be an effective way to get someone to sort of start to scroll.
Yeah, exactly.
So
And then I guess also from a content standpoint, in some cases, your ulterior motive is to kind of showcase storytelling or and then what your brand values to like foster loyalty. So I would think that that's have that at the back of your mind. Like primarily you're like, okay, I want to give updates and to kind of foster engagement. I want to give updates to, maybe upsell, cross sell, get referrals, but also it's an opportunity to kind of let your brand shine, I would
right.
say. Yeah.
No, I think that's you said it earlier that you're looking for engagement, you're looking for, this is your voice, right? This is an
Mm-hmm.
opportunity, instead of having picking up the phone and calling all of your customers or all of your prospects, you're sending them your information, your voice. So it needs to be story like, right? We when we talk to people, we tell stories, right? We give them an update of what's happening in our lives or what's happening at work or things like that. um so absolutely, like storytelling and you, who you are, your personal brand is really critical.
Yep. Exactly.
um and I mean, I guess that goes sort of to the idea that people should, when they engage with the email, they should feel like they're having a conversation with you. That it's then also it's an opportunity for them, like I said earlier, to share that. Say, hey, my financial guy sent me this. It's really interesting. You should take a look at it. Things like that.
Very cool.
So what
Should we
else?
also talk
What
about,
else?
yeah, well, I was thinking that like we've talked about the content, but we haven't really talked about the visual, um, I don't know, layout or like what the experience, well, we touched on the experience where like having little short things and then kind of going out to your website, I think is a good idea. Um, but I think your brand has to be showcased and everybody might have a different approach. So if you have a product that is, let's say you have, um, it's software for photographers. You're going to want to have beautiful imagery.
Mm-hmm.
If you are so Klaviyo is an email platform. They
Mm-hmm.
have email, their newsletters are pretty straightforward, but there's something about it. Like it's got, say, like color blocks, maybe no images, like maybe some icons. It's
Mm-hmm.
pretty bare bones, but the information is so good. I kind of feel like HubSpot is like this too. The information is so good that you want to read it all. And it's
Right.
like, it's real simple. So I think it depends on who your brand. But I wouldn't, yeah, you also have to keep in mind, you don't want to have like image, because that'll make your email really big. And so it won't load very
Right.
quickly.
Oh, and
So you do have to
speaking of
keep
that,
that in mind.
yeah, make sure mobile first doesn't just mean it fits on a small screen, but that it loads quickly, right? That mobile first is more than just a layout design thing. It's a weight thing, and images are very heavy in weight and things like that.
Exactly.
I was also going to say, as you were sort of talking about that, that I think clean is really good. I think what you want to make sure is if you're using any of the AI tools to help you create content, and which we all do, make sure you don't do the emojis. Like, remove the emojis. If
Why?
I mean, you
What do
can
you mean? In subject lines?
in subject lines, and I would what I was going to say is I have heard a couple stories where because ChatGPT adds emojis for like every headline,
Oh, I see what you
people
mean.
are
Oh,
like,
oh,
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 this
oh.
is AI
Yeah,
generated
yeah, yeah.
content,
Got it.
right?
Okay. Now
Sorry.
I was reacting because subject lines, it's okay to have emojis, I think. So unless for some reason you're a lawyer, you know, probably not appropriate. But if like you're fun, like yeah, and if you're talking to a younger audience, then
Yeah.
sure. I
And
don't think there's a reason not to.
and that's fine. I was just simply saying if there are throughout your copy, people are going to be
Yeah,
like, is this genuine? Like, do you
yeah,
really talk like
totally.
this, like using emojis?
Totally. I know.
So that's just one of those things that popped in my head. I think you
That's
know
hilarious.
design, I love the idea of more simple because you have a lot of flexibility too. Like, you don't have to keep rethinking your template, if you will. You can really focus on the content as long as the design is clean and
Yep.
things like easy to read. The Again, think about the colors you put on top of each other for text versus background and things like that. So
Yeah, and actually, there is a couple of things too where I don't think this is applicable for a newsletter, but there is a concept of adding kind of dynamic content in there. So if you had maybe you have a little section where you're using it for merchandising, you
mhm.
can, if you have an e-commerce site, there are email platforms that can pull in what were the latest products that people were looking at on your site. So that would be dynamic and it's specific to that person. I don't know if it's as relevant with newsletters. I mean, the only other thing I can think of is I was exploring this notion of dynamic ads showing up in a
Mm,
newsletter. So certainly New York Times has that in their newsletter. It'll show up and that's dynamic. I don't know how great the targeting is. But it's also dynamic. So it's just like how an ad gets served to you on a website. It's serving an ad essentially in your email.
right. I was thinking as you were saying that, like one of the things we haven't touched on is there's some basic stuff you can do to just have your emails be more relevant and smarter.
Mm-hmm.
One of those things is segmenting your lists, right?
Oh
So
yeah, totally.
make sure that, like, the old school way was to literally email everybody everything.
All at
And
once.
yeah, all at once. And it was also, well, how did we used to say it? Like, your marketing strategy was
Say and
like,
spray.
yeah, say and spray, and everybody, like, it's just not, people know, right, if you're not being sort of customized to their needs or whatever. So I mean, some basic segmenting could be, are you a customer or a prospect, right? That could be they
Yeah.
could be very similar newsletters, but with slightly different tones. If you have a business that, let's say, has kids programs for young girls and kids programs for young boys, and you know that your customers just have boys, then don't be marketing them all the girl program
Right.
emails, if you will. But it doesn't mean that you can't cross promote sometimes, like you said, right? Like you can either merchandise it in your newsletter or things like that, but um, try to make them really more targeted. We've said that a couple times. And figure out, again, you're going to look at data, things like open rates, and click through. It's going to give you an idea of, is this strategy, whether it's segmenting or your design or your content, working? Because I think
Exactly.
ultimately the goal is it's click through. I think it's great if emails inform somebody, but you want them to take a logical next step. And that maybe visit your website or sign up for something or.
That's another kind of nod to why you would want to have additional content on your website. It's like if you put everything right there, then
Mm,
they're not gonna do anything. They're not gonna engage with your website. And your website is like it'll have all these other things that potentially could just keep you top of mind, which is also important.
right. That's true. That's
Um,
true.
we did touch on sort of smarter targeting a little bit. Are there other things that around kind of newsletter? I guess it's still the content creation or maybe the execution of like how you might tailor campaigns. Is there timing that you use? Maybe we use AI for. Um, any
I,
other kind of thoughts around that area?
well,
Automation.
a couple things. So, I mean, there's some basic like structure, if you will. When I think about like an email thing, I'll use I work for a nonprofit, and in August it's Make a Will month.
Hmm.
And so one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to sort of quote unquote warm up
Mm-hmm.
our audience in the end of July or mid
Mm-hmm.
July about Make
Mm-hmm.
a Will month coming. So you
Mm-hmm.
sort of start with that idea of content that's really just a teaser almost. And then in August, we'll do two different emails, beginning of the month and in the middle of the month, to basically get people we want people to create wills. 76% of all Americans don't have a will. And the
Wow.
number of people who own houses or real property and don't have a will or a trust is even higher, which is
Dang.
crazy. And people with kids don't have wills. And just a sidebar, if you don't have a will and you have kids, then guess what happens if you pass away? Your state that you live in decides
Takes it.
what happens to your kids. Even if you have relatives, grandparents, aunts, uncles,
Crazy.
they become wards of the court until it gets figured out, and that can take 6 months. Just
Awful.
telling you. So make a will, people, and there's some great free tools
Yeah.
out there.
All right. So your warming up is also
I'm
a
warming up.
promotion within a podcast. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
for freewill.com. And seriously, that's the name
Yeah.
of organization. They're a
Oh,
great
well, and
nonprofit.
then let's not forget about Lindsay at the University of Santa Clara, that she's got her legal team of students who can do things like that. So
Yeah.
go check out that
So
episode whenever that was. Yeah.
anyway, the idea being that I think no matter what you do with your segmenting and things, you still also need a strategy around your communication plan, if you will.
Yeah, but do you think so? Is your Make a Will month? Is this is the warming up? Is that newsletter oriented, or
Yeah.
are those kind of one-off emails?
It's
Okay, not a specific campaign for it.
well,
I think that's
we
different,
do
like a
other
dedicated email.
newsletters and the teaser is in that earlier email in the warm up one.
Okay, yeah, okay. Because sometimes I do almost like dedicated emails to our customers versus prospects that are just like, hey, try this thing. And it might be like one singular topic. So I don't think of that as a newsletter. I think of that as like a one
Mm,
off kind of campaign. I might do that every now and then as well.
got
But
it.
again, well, staying on topic for newsletters though.
Sure.
We've talked about testing. I think you also have to do that too with all these topics that we said, like about the content, about the layout, about the design. I would do some testing just to see what is the best combination and try to only do one thing. We've had a whole topic on testing. So maybe go back and listen or watch that episode to understand kind of the frameworks on testing and how to do that well. You can do it scrappy, but also if you have just, I advise you to take a look at that one. Yeah. So maybe we go on to kind of like, what do we think is next for,
That's a good question.
Other things, because it's, I think with the, go.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, I think
I asked you and then I started talking.
With AI, we're going to see more of the tools that send email incorporate a notion of AI smartness. So in other words,
definitely,
instead of you having to figure out like the segmenting and maybe even the content differences for your audiences, AI, which essentially is it learns, right? It's taught things. It's going to learn what's going to be effective. And I really think we're going to see that sort of combination work together as far as AI. I also think that AI is going to make it so that connecting things like email and social or email and web is a lot simpler. So you're going to be able to use AI tools to pass sort of this notion of personalized experience all the way through someone's journey.
I could see that.
Yeah. And I, especially because so many of the AI tools are based on one or two platforms of AI, that you're going to see this way to connect these things together.
Yeah. And I do think, like, I've seen a couple of tools that are, hey, do you want a recommendation for subject line? So I haven't seen it for the body of an email yet, but I'm sure it'll come. But certainly subject lines and then A/B testing, it can kind of help with
create
that.
Versions.
Certainly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's almost like predictive analytics, which meaning it will analyze the performance of either the emails or if you've got it integrated with your site, if it's an e-commerce platform, it can say, oh, these are the people that bought, and so therefore these are people that look like they're likely to buy in the next, 3 months or something like that. And so it can make recommendations there.
That's
which
actually
I think is kind of nice.
Super interesting. Yeah.
It's crazy.
It basically can figure out who's
e-commerce specifically,
yeah. But also I imagine depending on the user's interaction with the email, it could start to predict who is going to reach out to you for a consultation. Like there's a lot I think that AI could do there.
Yeah. And I guess there's also, if you, I don't know if it can do this or not, but you could think about this. It's bordering on this predictive analytics side. If there's a way for people to cancel a subscription, if there's a way for that information to be kind of passed through, then that's something that could be leveraged. Like these are people that look like they might cancel. So make sure you're doing something to try to win them back, if they're going to cancel, if it's a subscription.
Yep.
Yeah. Anything else? I feel like, what would be like your like last parting words on, what a marketer needs to think about or do? I think we could kind of maybe summarize a little bit.
I guess my one other thing is more of not a warning, but I'll give you an example. I have seen realtors that use the same email templates from the same third party to send the same update.
Yes, they've clearly bought some sort of a platform for newsletters.
They paid somebody some money to send a newsletter for them, and it has their picture and their name, but then the recipes are the same,
Yes.
the
Yep.
update about the market is the same,
Uh-huh.
and
Yep.
I I, I think that you could just, maybe they're also buying a
Personalize
list,
it.
which is what you want to do, but oh my goodness, it's not that
It's
complicated
the same.
to
Yeah.
create your own newsletter that's unique.
To you.
Do
Yeah.
because people see these. I see it in print too. I get print things, about
Oh,
market
yeah, it's
updates,
clear.
and they're
Yes.
identical.
Exactly. So there's that for real estate. I think law firms have that too, where they might subscribe to something and then pass it on. But
I've
that's
seen it for
different.
insurance
Yeah.
companies,
Sure.
uh,
Yeah. So
financial
funny.
people. Yeah. So I feel like that the people are
HOA.
smarter
Yeah.
than we think they are, or
Yeah, for sure.
than we are willing to admit that. And
Yep.
people see this like repetitiveness, and it's not very branded. And
Yep.
oof, yeah.
I know.
I
It's
think
like the very bare minimum.
right. I think the
Show a
other
little
thing
effort.
that you can think about is just maybe start off, think about two different groups within your email audience, and think about, just use that as a test. Don't go crazy. Don't have 7 segments and all these different things. Start with two different email styles. Maybe it's just you're testing that, but see what works for your audience and things like that, and don't make it where they have to scroll forever.
Well, to your point, so again, testing I think is a good idea, but you also don't know, like maybe the segments are born out of what you see in response. So let's say you see it, this kind of people, this resonates with them, or this kind of people, this is what resonates with them. So maybe you send the same thing and something doesn't resonate, send something different. You know what I mean? Like it's almost like you're testing out what does
Yep.
work. Like you
But
might
you're
not know.
right.
So just send a bunch of different things. And then you do have to analyze it after the fact to
I was
say,
going to
this is
say
what I'm finding.
that's the
Yeah.
biggest challenge. So
Yep.
honestly, if you
Have
need
AI
help with
analyze
that,
it.
AI or
We
Lisa and
will,
I,
yes, we will help do that. We
we can
will
help you.
leverage AI. No, because you have to ask the right questions. I think that's what it comes down to, too,
Yeah.
being kind of curious and stuff. So, yeah. All
So
right.
I
Well,
think email isn't dead.
no,
I
not at
think it's
all.
a way to connect with your user, and it's a way to connect your other digital platforms. So
And I will
take
say,
advantage of it.
I want to throw out a couple of resources. So any of the email platforms, very common ones. So MailChimp is now owned by Intuit, which is QuickBooks. I actually don't even know I don't know anything about their content, but I felt like I need to mention them. Klaviyo has great content, Klavio. They integrate really well with Shopify. So if you've got an e-commerce site, those are a good match to work together. They're crazy, like how well they work together. ConstantContact and HubSpot, they all have really good email marketing best practices, and it's all free. So it's obviously they do this because they're trying to get you to sign up for their platform.
Right.
But it's not that you can't, sure. Like if let's say you use Klaviyo, but you want to read HubSpot, like, you could, or vice versa. Like you could do all that. But it's all very helpful. And we can throw the links in the show notes.
Yep.
So
From tactics to tangents.
From tangents to tactics.
Oh, either way, it's mostly marketing.
It's mostly marketing.